What are some flaws your parents had that you want to avoid as a parent? Not being open. My parents were both very nice and really great parents, but not really emotionally open. We didn't talk about deep, personal things and therefore never really developed an intimacy. My kids are 8 and 12, and we talk about everything. And I love that they trust us enough to do that. A child should feel safe talking to their parents about anything. I've come to realize that it's very often a learned skill, which my parents never really learned. When I was younger I thought being in this logical focused household was better than emotional focused ones. Post high school as I started to try and be more emotionally tuned I tried to open the door for that kind of communication. And it just didn't work. They seemingly never learned how to do so with their children. I feel sorry for them. My family was like that too. My father, a scientist, was 100% logic driven, and my mother refused to engage with anything even slightly negative, and smiled through all problems pretending everything was fine, and not talking about it. When I was going through adolescent turmoil my attempts to open up to them were met with either dismissal, or with immediate and utterly facile solutions that just made me feel worse. They never really listened to what I was trying to tell them. They never really seemed to just hear me out. When as an adult I was in treatment for depression, my therapist suggested that they might both be on the spectrum. This would explain the above, and a hell of a lot more, in particular their bizarre behavior in social situations, and the way they always suppressed any conflict between them or within the family, giving us kids absolutely no emotional tools to cope with it in later life. Stop crying. It made me apathetic and now my parents want me to smile more. If I can't cry, how am I supposed to have a smile on my face? My mom did this to me too. She would get mad at me if I was sad or upset or in a bad mood. If I wasn't pure happy all the time, I was a problem child and disrespecting her and being ungrateful for all she'd done for me. It took me 2 years after moving out to work my way out of the depression she helped me sink into. Not even as a parent, but as an adult, my parents are awful at communicating and have been my entire life. Even the mildest thing would always end up as a shouting match. There was no such thing as a conversation and instead blaming the other for something ducking up. Pretty sure that shit scarred me for life. My parents do the same exact thing, and honestly at this point I've gotten used to it. But it's so ducking annoying to hear them argue over something like hair extensions. I was a crazy ass, hyperactive as fuck, angry as hell ADHD kid. My mom and stepdad didn't really parent me like I was. They just parented me like they were planning to parent any kid. I also lived with my uncle. He parented me as if I was a crazy ass, hyperactive as fuck, angry as hell ADHD kid. He was far more successful with me. Parent the kid you have, not the one you thought you might be getting. Just in case I have to handle a ADHD kid one day, can you spare me some tips? He used to work on offense instead of defense. He spent a lot of time predicting what I was about to do and then guiding me away from it while explaining everything. He used natural and logical consequences. He used timeout as a way to help me regulate myself instead of using it as a punishment. He kept me busy and gave me lots of praise. He used routines. He explained everything up front. We are going here. It's going to be like this. I need you to do this. He was very specific about the things he really cared about and didn't care about general kid stuff. He applies that to all kids. And when I was older and he actually had legal guardianship of me, he got my meds sorted and got me a behavioral therapist and psychologist/psychiatrist/therapist. Saying oh yeah being smart when hit with compelling arguments. There's nothing wrong with challenging outdated mindsets or rules. It's healthy to encourage that kind of critical thinking, not shame it, as if being smart is disrespectful. It seriously invites a response. Yes I do. Apostrophe. If the kid has a good argument, accept that and change your mind. When I was young, that response meant a belt across the ass. I'm very glad this is less acceptable now. My mom was super strict. Growing up I wasn't allowed to play with my friends outside school. I have to study for 5 hours a day to get into honors class. When I entered my teens, my curfew was 5 PM until I was 18. and school finishes at 4 p.m. Then I went to college and my curfew is now 7 p.m. during summer and 6 p.m. on winter. I get that they want to protect me, but being overprotective results in children who are really good at lying. That's what happened with me, and I definitely want my kid to grow up with a certain amount of freedom and independence. Or you end up like me and move halfway across the world as an adult. Seriously, helicopter parenting has its consequences. Raging alcoholism. After squandering the first 4 years of my son's life by repeating the cycle, I can happily say I'm about 5 years sober. Best decision I ever made. My dad used to keep me in the dark about everything. Grab your coat. Let's go. Apostrophe. Where are we going? Apostrophe. It doesn't matter. You're a child. You do as I say. Apostrophe. Because of this, as an adult, I developed a habit of asking others 100 questions about things they're doing, or prior to me making a decision or commitment. Simply because I'm skeptical of whether they have my best interest in mind and want to know their true motives. Basically, I don't trust anyone. The way you're treated as a child has a drastic effect on your behavior as an adult. Future parents need to keep that in mind. I can trace my behavioral quirks as a middle-aged man all the way back to childhood events. My in-laws did something similar to my husband and his sister. Well, it was more like questioning their every decision. Example, they'd give my sil $20 to spend at the mall, and then she'd buy a shirt and a snack, or whatever, as teenage girls do, and they'd give her the third degree about it when she got home. Was she supposed to play the stock market with it? There is never a right answer. My mil will try it with me on occasion. 2. Like questioning what I order at a restaurant, or why I didn't take a certain side dish at Thanksgiving. Bitch, I'm an adult woman. I know what foods I'm about. I even caught my husband repeating the cycle with his sister, and he didn't even realize it. We're almost 17 years older than her, so she was a young teenager when we met. We'd play table games with her, and he'd question her every move. Are you sure you want to play that card? Don't you have an whatever card? I called him out on it. It's a family table game. She is /14 years old. If she makes the wrong move, she might lose, but she'll be smarter the next time around. That's how games work. I played table games with my dad as far back as I can remember, and beyond explaining the rules, he never helped me, and it was a huge source of pride, probably for both of us, when I could beat him. They still both have problems making decisions. My mil had to go to the hospital a few weeks back, and he asks me, I don't know. What hospital do you think we should go to? Okay, there's my husband, his mom, and his stepdad all right here. Why on earth would a medical decision fall to me? The daughter-in-law? Don't leave that one to me. I'll drive her straight to the morgue. Attempting to run their 18-year-old's life as if he was 12. Then getting really hurt over it, and pulling the "you are breaking our heart" over completely dumb shit that was all about the kid wanting some independence. Makes perfect sense why Americans move out at 18 or 20. I'm a fully grown adult and don't even live with my parents, still my father tries this. He never likes any of my friends, uses demeaning statements about them, wants me to wear what he thinks is good. Yes, he was an army officer so has a good sense of style, but I freaking don't want to wear formal suits everywhere. I usually don't answer back, because if I do, he gets more offended. You don't know anything. I'm pushing 60 and my 85-yo pop is still showing his disappointment over just anything. As if he can finally fix me. I don't get it. Seems like he could be satisfied with my terminal degree, lucrative professional practice, very successful, happy grandkids, etc. Comparing my sibling and me from our childhood days to how we planned our weddings, and they wonder why we don't have a good relationship. They have set us up as rivals since the start. Other than abuse/neglect, this is one of the worst things a parent can do to children. Agreed. My parents and friends, peers, and teachers for that matter, compared me to my older sister, 22F, all the time. And I, 20F, still struggle with low self-esteem, social anxiety, and emotional trauma/triggers that stem from that childhood rivalry. My parents switched their approach once I started applying to college. but I feel like they only did that so that if I confronted them, they could say that they no longer compare me to her, so whatever happened back then doesn't count. I don't think I'll ever get a proper apology from them. I'm doing the best I can through therapy and school to learn and work through my struggles so that my future kids will never have to go through what I had to. I wouldn't wish this pain on my worst enemy. Not apologizing. Thinking they're always right and willing to lose people in the process. It's been a learning process to forgive and be forgiven, but I've learned to admit when I'm wrong and apologize for it. Having children hold weighted items above their heads for long periods of time as punishment. What were they thinking? You've gotta work the legs. 2. Leg day is important. Being late to everything! Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. I'm always early to everything now because I hated that my parents would automatically make me late when I was a kid and had to rely on them for transport. I still struggle to be on time to things. My mom was perpetually late for everything. I used to get in trouble for being late to school and I was like, I didn't drive myself. I'm usually on time, but it's still hard sometimes. I'm just late. So frustrating. I hate being late. Can you explain why you don't give yourself more prep time? The coworker I open the store with is always 5 to 10 minutes late. Every single day. We've talked about it. He says he realizes it, but he's never gotten there on time. I was thinking that maybe he was just sleeping in, giving himself an extra 5 to 10 minutes of sleep and just was struggling to break that habit. But he apparently wakes up 2 hours before work. So he's at home doing nothing but hanging around, and he's still late. What is it that makes a person always late? Fake hater. I hate my husband/wife humor. My mom and dad would snark and fake threaten each other, and they both laughed and laughed. I always hated it. Even if you're joking, you don't say stuff like that around your kids. Kids are helped immensely when they know that their living situation is stable. That includes both parents keeping the child's best interest in view. My mom had me at 17. I vowed to never deal with what she went through. Mom got married at 17 and had me at 18. 20 years later, here I am with 6 other siblings. I straight up told my mother that big family is a mistake and I'm gonna get 1 or a maximum of 3 kids only. There isn't a moment of silence at home. All groceries I buy get eaten in no time. We produce trash more than co-2. I'm the person doing those tasks cause my dad have health problems and he only just work to support with money and I have no other brother that is old enough to help me. I will tell my children I love them. This, even to this day, I never hear it or say it. My mom says this to my kids all the time, but never us growing up. My kids hear this from me every single day. 1. I will let my child have fun tomorrow if he had fun today. 2. I will communicate with my wife and solve the problems. Cause it's us against the problem, not us against each other. 3. Make my kids read books. 4. Tell my kid that the only person's approval he needs is of his own. 5. I'm not gonna raise him just because I expect him to take care of me when I'm old. No. 6. Tell him that sometimes you can do everything right and still fail. That is not his weakness. That is just life. Making passive-aggressive comments about my appearance. Even years after leaving him, still hyper-conscious about how my body looks in a way that's unhealthy. I know they wanted the best for me, but I want my kids to cultivate a healthier relationship with food and my body. If that quarantine has taught me one thing, it is that all adults are just children with depressed emotions and more responsibilities. The things they judge us for are generally what they themselves did. I see how they had some terrible childhood memories and how this affected their adult life. But if I see these effects now by self-judgment, how could they not see? Haven't they ever wondered what is wrong with them? Adults are just so busy trying to look normal. 100% can confirm there is no magic adulthood event that makes you feel like a grown-up. We're all just faking it. I wish my parents wouldn't have discouraged high school dating so much. It can be understandable. Maybe they had awful experiences. Sometimes, if not often, high school dating can be pretty destructive, as it is often toxic, short-term or careless, but it is a part of the evolution and discovery of romantic relationships. My dad always complained about his back and used it as an excuse. Dad, can you help me practice my throw? Can't, my back hurts. Apostrophe. Dad, can we go to the beach? No, my back is killing me. Dad, are you going to come to my little league game? I would if it wasn't for my back. So I became obsessed with taking care of my back, even when I was in high school. Yoga, billets, proper lifting, etc. I'm never going to use my back as an excuse. Refusing to hear their children's side because the parents are always right and I'm just the child. I hate this way of thinking so much. My dad drank himself to death when he was 45. I've spent the last 23 years making sure I don't do that. Pretty easy when you don't drink a half gallon of vodka every day. My dad, too. When I was 3, he was an abusive alcoholic to my mom. And although she herself seemed to have her own mental/emotional limitations as a parent, I'm kinda grateful my dad died when he did, since his presence most likely would have fucked me up a lot more. Unaffectionate. Beating for discipline. Being compared to other people's kids who are doing better. Breaking promises. Abandonment. I'm now a pretty screwed up adult, but I won't be having kids BC of all this. Same. I'm so scared of the idea of having kids in the future because of how my parents behaved. And more time passes, the more I see them in my behaviors. When I used to hurt myself, my parents would yell at me. I guess it's because of fear or frustration due to the fact that most times it could have been avoided. Now I see myself doing the same thing with my kids and it's incredibly difficult to correct my own behavior. I've seen some people say that it helps to think about how they felt when their parents did that to them. Maybe spend some time thinking about what you'd prefer to do the next time they get hurt. Long term, most injuries are minor and no big deal, right? Every kid gets hurt. Doing dumb shit that risks minor injury is what childhood is for. Plan your response and try to remember your script when it comes up. For bumps and bruises and skinned knees, I'm a fan of the phrase, "And what did we learn from this?" Because hey, let's focus on what doing this dumb shit taught them was dumb shit to do. That, and apply first aid and hugs as necessary. They get comfort if they are upset. But then we go to, and what did you learn from this? To direct the emphasis to this was preventable in a way that isn't just yelling at them. If my kid has any type of mental illness or something, I'm well equipped to help him get on top of it. Like, I'm autistic. Doctors in the 90s told my dad that I had ADHD, but he didn't believe in that. All of the progress I've made I've had to learn on my own. All hard lessons. My dad doesn't believe in ADHD and autism now. I was diagnosed with ADHD earlier this year and suspect I might have autism too. I need my dad's help for the costs of testing, but he says you're not thick, there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah, wonderful dad. I've only been completely behind everyone my entire life because I'm oh so smart. I had a talk with him about it and I think he understands it now. At least a bit more than he did. People with mental problems aren't always completely brain dead, dad lol. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.